I believe that with every person, within the heart of every single person, we have three basic desires when it comes to relationships, why we look for relationships, why we engage in relationships, and what we seek to get out of a relationship. Connection, two separates coming together. Intimacy, being fully known and fully accepted. In other words, into me, you see. And expression, not filtering behavior or communication out of fear or shame. Because I have seen these three motivations play out time and time again in relationships, I really have come to that conclusion that really that's what we're seeking when we're seeking sex, when we're seeking kink, when we're seeking all of these things. Yes, it's fun, it's exciting, it's arousing, but if we can't connect, reveal ourselves, and express ourselves fully without shame or fear, what use is it to us? Think about it. If we have so much shame and fear about ourselves, about our partner, about our sexuality, about our relationship, whatever, we're not going to express. We're going to keep all of that inside of us, and it's never going to get out, and it's going to create a deep, deep angst. So we have to operate in love, not fear, because love actually produces these goals. Fear and fear's relatives, and we'll get into that later today, will actually prevent connection, intimacy, and expression. So if that's what we want, this ecstasy, this erotic, deep, passionate connection when we are fully known and fully loved as we are, and we can communicate and express ourselves without fear of shame or judgment or rejection. How do we get there? There is actually a flow to ecstasy that I have found, and it's safety, trust, vulnerability, and intimacy. And that's what leads to that ecstasy that we are really all craving. That is the flow that we have to take to get there. And I say that because ecstasy is a result of that connection and intimacy and expression that we deeply, deeply crave. So in order to get that ecstasy, that deeply passionate, erotic connection when we can just be totally ourselves, go totally wild, express whatever whims and desires we have with our partner, that's essentially intimacy. It's into me, you see. It's being fully known and fully accepted. But in order to get to that place of intimacy, we have to backtrack. And it's going to take vulnerability to get there, right? You can't just reveal yourself. Hey, here's me. Here's what I like. Here's my preferences. Here's my desires. Here's the things that I've never told anyone. Here's me. You can't get to that place unless you're willing to be vulnerable. Okay, but in order to be vulnerable, we got to backtrack it a step further. Trust needs to be established. We can never get that vulnerable in order to get intimate, to experience that ecstasy, until we trust. And we say this all the time, especially in kink. That's why we have such high emphasis on SSC and RAC and enthusiastic consent, uncoerced, unmanipulated consent, is we need trust. But trust doesn't just happen. And it doesn't happen instantly. And it requires safety in order to take the time to build the trust. So if you never feel safe, you're never going to trust. If you don't feel trust, you're not going to be vulnerable. If you don't get vulnerable, you're not going to be intimate. And if you are unwilling to be intimate with someone, you're never going to experience that ecstasy that you crave. And so what I found is every action we take in life and every response or reaction we have can all be traced down to one of two roots, love or fear. Now, love has different relatives and different manifestations, and fear has different relatives and different manifestations. But when we are operating out of love for ourselves and our partners, we will produce certain fruit in our thinking and our emotions and how we relate to our partner. Whereas when we're thinking and operating out of fear, that will often produce a lot of anxiety in ourselves and in our relationships, a lot of shame where we want to hide and we don't want to express or talk or communicate, and control, where sometimes we do it because we know that we're being controlling, but a lot of times we do it as a self-preservation method. And it's that self-preservation that leads to what I call the hijack. Now, like I just said, often when we feel afraid, anxious, out of control, what do? We try to take back as much control as possible. That's why a lot of people who have gone through trauma will develop self-harm issues or eating disorders or whatever, because that is a way for them to control something in their lives, control their pain, control a decision, whatever, have some sense of control. So often this need to have control, and this one is hard for me because I am dominant. I like to be in control. I like to make my decisions and I like to get shit done, right? But for me, what I found is when I just try to frantically control everything, I'm really operating out of fear. And what happens when we are operating out of that fear, out of that self-preservation, and we are trying to control, then we will hijack the flow of intimacy. And here's what I mean by that. You can see on the screen what I'm talking about here. So rather than safety and then trust, we have fear right here. So when we feel afraid, our ego kicks in. Like I was just saying, self-preservation, me, not me and my partner, me, because I'm afraid, I need to protect myself. So then what do we do to protect ourselves? Control. Even micromanaging our partner, even backhanded comments, etc. Little tiny methods of control will seep in there. And then what happens? Isolation. Yeah, we got what we wanted. We protected ourselves, but now we're alone because we can't trust anyone. And everyone's a threat. And when we don't have that trust, do you see how our partner becomes a threat? And do you see how that flow of intimacy gets hijacked? So the solution to this fear is to infuse love in its place. Love for yourself, love for your partner. And I actually have a personal story of my own to share with you to illustrate this point. A few weeks ago, my guy and I went out to the lake with some of our friends. They got a new wave runner, and so he was super excited about it. He wanted to try it out and go play, and so we all went out to the lake. Now, back in the day, my dad took me out on, a jet ski, Sea-Doo, whatever, the old school ones, okay? And I had a somewhat traumatic experience. My dad was an adrenaline junkie, so little tiny me, even tinier than I am now, tiny little me gets on the jet ski Sea-Doo. I'm probably 7, 8 years old, and my dad is not being cautious about this at all. He is just taking those sharp turns, going super fast. My first time ever, tiny little 7, 8-year-old, I'm freaking the fuck out. So I do what any dominant in the making would do, and I reach under, because I'm already have my hands wrapped around my dad under his life vest, but I reach up and I grab his nipples and I pinch the fuck out of him. I was trying to get him to like slow down. It surprised him, backfired. We both went in the water. So that's my experience going into this fun weekend at the lake with our friend's new wave runner. And my guy wants to go out, and I see him go out on the wave runner, and he's zooming around, and he looks great out there. It's like an extension of his body, right? So he asked if I want to go out, and I'm like, okay. If you promise to be a gentleman and go slow, then yes, I will trust you to take me out. So we get going, and on the back there are 2 handles that you can hold on to, or you can put your arms around the person in front of you depending on how close you are. And this is my first time. The handles looked really like steady. I could kind of lean back a little bit. I'm like, yeah, okay, I got this. And so he starts going and he eases into it, right? We don't go very fast. We're going along, riding along. But as the water is splashing on the handles, they're getting slick, and it's getting more and more difficult for me to hang on. And he's picking up speed because I'm having a good time, he's having a good time, he's picking up speed, and my hands are like starting to slip. And so I'm like hanging on for dear life. My muscles are starting to cramp, my hands are starting to cramp, and I have totally lost sight of the fun experience that was supposed to be happening. But I notice he's not taking the turns super sharp. He's telling me, okay, hold on, I'm gonna go faster. He's keeping those lines of communication open. I'm going, he's not out here to throw me in the water. That's not funny for him. That's not fun for him. He's not trying to do that. Okay, I was reminding myself of his character, of his track record. He is a good guy. He's never done anything to harm me. He's never done anything to violate my boundaries. Why would he now? And I had to stop myself and go, you know what? You are projecting your own shit onto this situation. And it's not fair to him and it's not fair to you. So what did I do? I trusted him. I remembered his track record. I remembered his character. This is the guy that I trust and that I love. So I took my hands off. I said, hold on. And he slowed down. And I took my hands off and I put my arms around him and I held on. And we started going and we got way up to speed. And I was able to feel the turns with him since I was hanging on to him. And we were laughing and having a great time. Do you see where I'm going with this? My fear had me grip on tight and hold on tight. And that caused pain for me. It caused a lack of enjoyment for me. And then I couldn't enjoy my partner. I couldn't enjoy this fun activity that we were doing, right? It removed all pleasure because of my fear. I was holding on so tight. But the moment I replaced that fear with love and trusted, what happened? I let go. I was able to release. And I was able to get close to my partner and actually enjoy everything going on. So the next time you start to feel some of that anxiety, shame, fear, stress, anger, bitterness, let those be red flags that, oh, you're on the wave runner and you're holding on too tight because there is a lack of trust here. So if you genuinely believe your partner to be good-willed and they genuinely love you and they have proven their character to you, remind yourself of that. Let go. Hold on to them instead and take back that fear hijack. Are you part of our video test? Yeah?